During my hospital stay, my girlfriend took care of me with painstaking, almost obsessive attention. Even the woman in the next bed couldn't stop nudging us, asking when we planned to get married and when the wedding would be. I didn't just ignore her, I waved my hand impatiently and said, "It's just for fun. Why would we get married?" What Willow didn't know was that I had already discovered the truth. Last night, when she went to get me a glass of water and forgot to lock her phone, I saw that she had activated couple mode in a game, with someone saved in her phone as Makoto. The day I was discharged, the biggest snowstorm of the year hit the city. Willow happily looped the scarf she had knitted herself around my neck, laughing as she said I looked like a pig-headed fool. I frowned but said nothing. She tilted her head, slipped her arm through mine, and asked softly, "What's wrong?" I stared into her eyes that looked like they were filled with stars. I just couldn't understand how this woman could cheat on me while still acting so gentle, so pure, so virtuous. Willow's WeChat moments are filled with photos of me. Because I have chronic gastritis, this pampered girl who had never lifted a finger for housework learned how to cook all kinds of stomach-soothing meals. Whenever I came home late from business dinners after drinking, she would complain a little, but she always brought out the porridge she had prepared in advance. She was gentle, considerate, and attentive. She remembered what I liked to eat and use. She handled every detail of our daily life so I could focus entirely on fighting my battles outside. Last month, when I went on an inspection trip to the Northeast with a client, she couldn't come because of school. Still, she spent half an hour on the phone reminding me to stay safe. My friends teased me, calling her sister-in-law, saying her eyes were always on me, that she was completely love-brained. And yet, this very person had bound herself into a couple relationship on a game screen with a man I didn't even know. I don't know why, but I suddenly craved spicy diced chicken hot pot, the kind of fiery food I'm not supposed to eat. Willow talked me out of it and made porridge instead. I sat at the dining table, watching her busy figure in the kitchen. Out of nowhere, I asked, "Willow, we haven't played games in ages. How about I log in tonight and carry you for a few rounds?" She froze for a split second. Then she smiled and poked me playfully. "Sure, hubby. What made you want to play today?" It was true. I hadn't touched games in 2 or 3 years, not because I didn't have time or because games weren't fun, but because every time I opened the interface, I felt an unexplained impatience and fatigue. Those days of being immersed in games with Willow felt like a distant dream, beautiful but blurry. This time, I felt even more annoyed playing because Willow was using an alt account with me. After we lost a match, I tossed my phone onto the sofa. She smiled gently and said carefully, "Hubby, you already did great. I'm the noob. How about we do something else?" After eating, she curled up next to me on the sofa. Her breath brushed my ear, her slightly damp hair carrying the clean scent of freshly washed shower gel. Instinctively, I pushed her away. She raised her brows in surprise, but still leaned close and reminded me to sleep early. The next day, I didn't wake Willow up. I went to work alone. At noon, she sent me 2 messages. The first, "You just got out of the hospital. Don't eat anything raw or cold. I ordered seafood millet porridge. Finish all of it, okay?" The second, "Were you in a bad mood yesterday? After work, let's go watch a movie. We haven't done that in ages." I locked my phone, a sharp pain stabbing my stomach. After work, I drove to her school and picked her up. Without saying a word, I took her straight to the cinema. She didn't feel awkward at all. She linked her arm through mine naturally. The movie was boring, and Willow's phone kept lighting up. Halfway through, she suddenly said there was an urgent matter at school and she needed to take a call. I nodded and said it was fine, telling her I'd head home after the movie. But she didn't expect me to follow her out of the theater. Luckily, she was on foot. If she'd taken a cab, I might not have caught up. The destination was close, a nearby hospital. Willow stood out easily in the crowd, so when a man rushed out of a department and pulled her into his arms, I saw it clearly. Willow let him hold her. She turned her head away, neither responding nor resisting. I got home later than Willow. She sat at the dining table, head tilted, watching me. I didn't intend to explain anything. As I walked past, she grabbed my sleeve. "Hubby, what's wrong with you lately? You seem stressed. Is work giving you trouble?" She stood on tiptoe, arms around my neck, about to kiss me, but the image of that man holding her flashed in my mind. I jolted and shoved her away. "Go take a shower." My tone was filled with disgust, but she didn't suspect anything. She even tossed me a playful wink before leaving. Her phone wasn't locked again. This time I checked her WeChat properly. Yesterday she'd used one account to game with me, clearly her alt. After some digging, I realized she had hidden another WeChat app on a different screen. That account was mostly empty, just a few contacts, including her best friend. Pinned at the top was a chat with a Makoto name. As I was reading, a new message came in. "Willow, I'm sincere. I want to be with you, through autumn and winter, regardless of heat or cold, not just saying I love you through a phone. Willow, when will you tell your boyfriend the truth?" My scalp went numb. I scrolled up. They talked constantly, more in one day than Willow and I talked in a month. A month ago, when I went to the Northeast with a client, Willow stayed behind because of school and spent half an hour on the phone telling me to be careful. That same day was Makoto's birthday. They went to the cat cafe we'd once visited together. Someone even took a picture, Willow smiling sweetly while holding the big orange tabby, the man beside her gazing at her with unmistakable affection. My hands and feet turned cold. She told him everything: school frustrations, loneliness, exhaustion. She sent cute voice messages, played games with him, shared photos of even the smallest things, like a new potted plant. The tutoring sessions she mentioned to me were almost always dates with him. As I read, my stomach tightened violently. I crouched down, clutching it, my gastritis flaring again. I didn't even notice the water had stopped running. The bathroom door opened. Willow's anxious voice sounded behind me. "What's wrong, hubby? Is your stomach hurting again? Do you need to go to the hospital?" She helped me up. The familiar scent of her shower gel eased the pain for a brief second. I lowered my head. By sheer luck, her phone had fallen face down on the table. The last message I saw before the screen went dark was from Willow to him. "Makoto brother, I stopped liking him a long time ago. The one I like is you." I had always kept my distance from people out of a habit, but she could always find me. That night, Willow sat beside me, propping her chin on one hand, her eyes half slinted. I knew she was looking at me, but I didn't have the courage to meet her eyes. After a long time, her light, soft voice sounded at my side. "I like you," she said. "Do you want to give us a try?" After we got together, I asked Willow why she would fall for someone as ordinary as me. She just laughed, wagged her finger beside me, and said, "Not a chance. You'll always shine brilliantly in my eyes." But Willow is a very peculiar girl. Her moral sense is paper thin, and her head is full of offbeat ideas. So honestly, the fact that she cheated on me didn't even surprise me. After we started dating, I lost weight and began working out. I trained my social skills in university clubs and even started to realize that I was actually pretty popular. During freshman orientation, a junior even confessed to me. I turned her down. I had always believed loyalty was the first rule of a relationship. Clearly, Willow didn't see it that way. I got up in the middle of the night and ate the last steak in the fridge, clutching the metal fork. Sure enough, I still couldn't shake my binge-eating habit, but I hadn't put on weight in a long time. The number on the scale had even started to drop. I didn't care, chalked it up as a perk of the surgery. The messages I'd read that night were still vivid in my mind. I let out a cold snarl. Willow didn't come home tonight. I called her phone. She picked up almost instantly. "Where are you?" I asked. On her end, the wind was howling. "Just got off work, heading home now. Miss me?" Her voice was a little hoarse. If I hadn't already checked with her coworkers and confirmed there was no makeup class today, I might have believed her. So she went to see that Makoto again, huh? I said evenly, "Willow, I'll come to you." Maybe it was my tone. She fell silent for a second. Then she spoke again, a hint of a laugh in her voice. She gave me the location and at the end reminded me to wear warm and be careful. The school where Willow teaches isn't far from our place. You can walk there. The streets are almost empty at night, and only near the school do you see a bit of everyday bustle. Willow was waiting for me at the entrance to that night market. She wore an off-white trench coat, her makeup flawless, her features strikingly cool. She had always stood out. Thinking back, she was never the settle down quietly type. I rehearsed what I wanted to say in my head several times and walked toward her, but suddenly she dove into my arms and nuzzled me. She pouted and said, "Hubby, look at your frown. How bad is it? Seeing me doesn't make you happy?" I thought, "Willow, do you actually know why I'm unhappy?" Dappled lights flickered across her brows and eyes. Hazy smoke curled and intertwined. Everything in my head was instantly scrambled. Is life just a film spliced together scene after scene, with no one knowing when or how the accident will happen? When sparks flew, Willow called my name. That day, I remember clearly, I went to her to break up. That day, I remember clearly, she lied about tutoring just to sneak off on a tryst with that guy named Makoto. Willow said she'd stopped liking me long ago. When that runaway cargo truck barreled toward us, the one who instinctively shoved me out of the way was her. The spreading pool of blood stabbed my eyes like needles. I practically went mad, crawling over to check her injuries, but she blinked at me and said, "As long as you're okay." What I really wanted to say was, "Willow, tell me, is staying with one person from start to finish really so damn hard?" Willow's injuries were far more serious than I'd imagined. With that much blood, how could she possibly have opened her eyes the next morning completely unscathed? She was taken to the ICU and slept for 2 or 3 days straight. During that time, I finally managed to unlock her phone. Fingerprint unlock really is a wonderful invention. I couldn't stop myself from reading their chat over and over. Every single line between her and that guy, all the teasing, all the flirting. In the dead of night, it felt like a knife carving into my heart. While Willow lay unconscious, that guy bombarded her with countless messages. "A flower shop just opened downstairs. See anything you like, Miss Leo? Don't forget to give me that extra lesson this afternoon. Hey, why aren't you answering me? You there? Willow? What happened? I went to your school but couldn't find you. Did something happen to you, Willow?" At night, I lay on the attendant's cot in the hospital, scrolling through that chat again and again. He was still sending messages, one after another, to this very phone. Halfway through, I dashed to the restroom and threw up. "Fuck you, Willow." The young nurse who did rounds every day said I looked terrible and suggested I get a full physical while I was here. When I came back with the report in hand, I saw a tall, skinny man standing outside Willow's room. Sometimes you can just feel misfortune coming. Without thinking, I called out his gamer tag. He turned, stunned for a second. There weren't many places near the hospital to talk, but we found a ramen shop. It was 3 or 4 in the afternoon, no customers around. He propped his forehead on one hand, listlessly stirring the noodles. "What's your name?" I asked. "Makoto." "So what?" he shot back, already on edge. "You're the one who plays games with Willow all the time, right?" "Yeah, so what?" "You know Willow is my girlfriend, don't you?" He shrugged. "Didn't know. So what?" The next second, I stood up and slapped him across the face, spelling out each word. "So what? This daddy just smacked you to teach you a lesson." "Still pretending. You think I haven't seen your chat logs?" I'd lost weight lately, but I still outweighed this beanpole. He wilted at once, eyes darting. "Feelings are complicated, bro. Calm down. I believe if you love someone, you shouldn't hold her back from someone better than you. Besides, it's not like you two are married." "A scumbag and a slut. You two are really perfect for each other," I sneered. He came right back with, "Then bro, why not just hand her over to me? I can accept her personality." My anger fizzled. I almost laughed at the nerve of him. In that instant, my stomach felt like it was on fire. I clenched my fists, and he scooted farther away. The results of my physical flashed through my head. After a moment's thought, I stood, bowed my head, and said calmly, "Fine, when Willow wakes up, tell her yourself. She's yours." Makoto probably never expected me to give in so easily. By coincidence, just as we got back, the doctor told me Willow had woken up. Makoto all but sprinted over, and Willow, sharp as ever, must have understood everything the moment she saw the two of us together. With Makoto standing between us, she and I locked eyes in silence. She's always looked at people with a trace of adoration. Even now, it felt as though I was still the only one in her sight. A thin beam of light slipped through a crack in the floorboards. I drew a quiet breath and finally said what I hadn't managed that day. "Willow, let's break up." A very, very long silence followed. She showed no surprise at all. Instead, she smiled faintly and said, "It really is important to wipe your phone before something goes wrong." That's Willow for you. Back in high school, I'd have lost it on the spot. I'd have slapped Willow's face until it swelled, broken Makoto's legs, and demanded to know why. But now, once the words were out, I simply turned around in silence. Behind her, she asked calmly, "Since we've broken up, can we still be friends?" I shook my head and pushed open the ward door. Willow didn't know. There is no later for me. It was Willow's 4th day in the hospital, 6 hours before she would wake up and 20 minutes before she would meet Makoto, when I got my own test results. I chalked up the constant stomach aches to post-surgery after effects. The nurse who kept saying I looked pale had caught me vomiting violently in the restroom at midnight. Early-stage tumors have no symptoms. Only in the middle or late stages does the pain become obvious. I never imagined a growth had rooted in the mucosa just below my stomach. In the half-lit consulting room, my hands and feet suddenly went numb. "Wait, doctor, are you sure? I read on Google that—" He frowned and cut me off. "Did you come alone? I'm not trying to scare you. I'll be blunt. We found this too late. If you don't treat it seriously now, you may have only a few months. Get admitted immediately. Call your family and decide quickly. Surgery or conservative." I must have stood there forever, but he finally sighed, patted my shoulder, and added, "Don't panic. Our hospital specializes in this, and we've had plenty of success stories." I spent the whole morning sitting on a bench in the hallway. Why hadn't the last operation caught this? Why now of all times? Why me? Haven't I had enough trouble? Does heaven want to strip me even of the right to live? The doctor had asked if I had family. My mom passed away a year after I graduated college. My relatives tore each other apart over Granddad's estate. All the years since graduation, I'd been with Willow. Willow was right. People's passion eventually burns out. That's why she stopped loving me. Maybe we'd been together so long that we forgot what love even was. People hurried back and forth down the hallway. For me, even existing here felt like luxury. I hadn't thought of my mom in ages, yet now her face seemed right before me. "Take me with you. Please, take me with you." Suddenly, I broke down bawling in the corridor. A middle-aged lady couldn't bear it anymore and handed me a tissue. She laid a gentle hand on my shoulder. "It's all right, young man. Don't cry. My boy is 11. We fought and he swallowed thumbtacks to kill himself. I regret it now. So many things. At the very least, I shouldn't have acted on impulse. You see, everyone suffers. That's why you have to cherish the people in front of you." She probably thought I was a patient's relative. I clenched the report tightly in my hand. Who do I even have left? I suddenly remembered a day when Willow and I argued about who would die first. She said she wanted to go before me. She couldn't bear life alone. I joked that with my workload, I'd probably drop first.
She burst into tears and said, "You're mine. Until you die, I'll stay by your side forever." I drifted down the stairwell toward Willow. How absurd. Even now, even after she cheated, my reflex was still to check whether she had woken up, to ask which treatment plan I should choose. But that day, standing at the stairwell landing, staring at the man outside her room, I understood with painful clarity. Willow was no longer mine. When the last leaf of autumn fell, Willow broke up with Makoto. It felt like nothing to her, yet Makoto was on the verge of a breakdown. Lowering her gaze, she blocked the person who kept bombarding her with messages. A car horn blared beside the street. She looked up at the now bustling night market. She suddenly remembered how 2 years ago she had shoved George aside and saved him from a car accident. Come to think of it, it had also been 2 years since he walked out of her life. Willow had never doubted that she loved George. In fact, her feelings had never burned so intensely as when she loved him. Even after the breakup, the turmoil refused to settle. There was a time she outright hated him, yet it was still George who haunted her thoughts. So she ended things with Makoto. She knew winning George back would be painfully hard, but she wanted to try. Had he been well these past few years? Was his stomach still acting up? Did he still skip breakfast and stay out drinking late into the night? So winning him back might be difficult, but she believed she might not fail. After all, she knew her own strengths and George's weaknesses. Honestly, men can't stand to see a pretty woman cry. They're easy to handle. Act a little cutesy and pitiful, and he'd ache for her. Smile at him, and he'd be utterly smitten. Since WeChat brought no reply, she tried other ways to find him. Apparently, George had moved away, and oddly enough, none of her best girlfriends had heard from him either. She finally managed to add one of George's old friends on WeChat. That person cursed her out and blocked her again. "Spend the rest of your life drowning in regret, you filthy bitch." Willow rolled her eyes. She didn't believe it. As long as she could see George again, everything could still be saved. She knew him too well. His tastes, his preferences, exactly how to charm him until he lost his mind. So much was etched into her bones. That was why she'd never stopped thinking of him. Willow refused to believe George had forgotten her completely. It happened at a Saturday high school reunion. During idle chatter, old stories surfaced. Willow couldn't hold her liquor. After 2 drinks, she propped her head on her hand, bored, listening to gossip. But when she heard George's name, she suddenly looked up. "Hey, remember that old classmate?" Someone sighed. "Such a pity, he died so young." "Yeah," another agreed. "I went to his funeral earlier this year. Stomach cancer, I think. So tragic. His parents were gone, too. When he passed, he was all alone. So young." Stomach cancer. Funeral. Those words felt alien, as though she'd never heard them in her life. She sprang to her feet, and every gaze converged on her. Her head buzzed. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe she'd misheard. Maybe it was just someone with the same name. George was no longer in this world. How could that be? Had George died a year ago? Would she never see him again? Never find him? Death, what did it mean? Did it mean they would never meet again in this lifetime? She tore through the world like someone possessed, hunting for anything that could prove George was still alive. She wanted evidence that people were lying to her, that everything was fake, just a cruel joke they'd all conspired to play. But there was none. All she found was an address and a headstone. The wind hissed in the lonely hills. Mountains high, rivers far. The departed were already gone. When she finally turned back to chase after them, even a single "I'm sorry" was too late. Memories flooded her like a tidal wave. The smallest stray emotion now swelled into something vast and crushing. She knelt before his grave from sunrise until sunset, yet ashes scattered to nothing. She could never win forgiveness. There was no one left to hear her. She hadn't merely lost him. She too had been cast aside. So she locked herself in her apartment and poured herself drink after drink. Only when the alcohol dulled her brain could she see him, the man crouching in front of her, ruffling her hair. "You're such a strange one. You were the first to fall out of love, so why are you crying like this now?" After that, Willow spiraled. It seemed that only when she let those shady men toy with her did she taste a fleeting hint of absolution. They dragged her out drinking every night, and her tolerance was abysmal. One day, she threw up again, staggered into the restroom, and stared at the woman in the mirror. She looked for a long time, then lifted the bottle and smashed the glass. The reflection fractured into thousands of shards. Shaking, she whispered, "Why? Why, Willow? Why can't you just stay loyal to one person? Why did you have to leave George? Why did you believe that no matter what you did, he would always turn around and forgive you?" Only later did she realize she had never stopped loving him. Some loves sink into the marrow. Abandoning him was easy for it. Losing him now hurt so much she could scarcely breathe. Suddenly, she snatched a shard from the floor. Facing the shattered mirror, she carved a size X across her own lips. Blood streamed down her cheeks at once. Even the men who had brought her there were startled. Cursing, they rushed her to the hospital. Later, she pushed the limits even further. Even with a mask covering her mouth, her face still oozed allure. One man pinched her disfigured lips and said, "I like you in this broken state." Alcohol and debauchery soon became the main motif of her life. There were things she tried desperately to forget. When she couldn't, she drowned them in whatever she was doing. Rumor had it in their circle that as long as a man looked like George, she'd hop on a plane to any corner of the country. The frenzy of longing was numbed that way, until one day it surged back like a burst dam. Everyone seemed to have George's face, yet none of them were him. The moment she saw one of those familiar-looking faces, a wave of nausea hit her. She rushed into the restroom and vomited until the world spun black. When Makoto found Willow, she'd locked herself at home drinking. The woman opened the door reeking of alcohol. Her eyes swept Makoto from the ground up, then rolled her eyes and tried to close the door, only for Makoto to block it with his hand. Arms folded, he asked, "If I didn't come, how much longer were you planning to keep sinking like this?" Even in depravity, a woman like her radiated a warning: strangers, keep out. Willow relaxed her brows and let out a mocking laugh. "Are you done yet?" Grinding his teeth, Makoto shot back. "Done? Willow, you were with me for 2 years. How long were you with him? And you'd ruin yourself for a dead guy? What does he have that I don't, that you're so hopelessly hung up on him?" The woman stared at him in silence. After a while, her voice dripped with impatience. She lifted her hand. "Come in." One glance told Makoto Willow now lived in the very apartment she had once shared with George. Nothing had changed in the decor, only the table was littered with overturned glasses. "Makoto, do you know why I added you that day in the game?" George probably doesn't even remember. When we first played that game together, the very first username he registered was Wakoto. That day, I'd fought with him, so calling you Makoto felt exactly like calling him. By then, I didn't love him as much. To me, you were a brand new version of him, which is why I found you more interesting. Hearing her dissect her feelings for George, fury erupted in Makoto. The next second, his palm cracked across Willow's face. "You filthy bitch." Makoto suddenly remembered the first time he met that man. He had said Willow was his. Now Makoto had to ask himself, Had he been that man's stand-in for 3 years? The answer was obvious. He had thought he'd won, that in the end, who was laughing? A dead man. Seeing Makoto completely lose control, Willow pretended to pull out her phone and call the police. Panicked, he bolted straight out the door. His curses still echoed in the air, but the door shut them firmly outside. Willow stared into her own eyes in the mirror. Today was an important day. She didn't want anyone to disturb her. Christmas Eve. The streets were already filled with a festive and joyous atmosphere. This is probably the first time Willow had stepped out of her home in half a month. She had showered, put on delicate makeup, and dressed properly before heading out. December 24th. This was the day they had officially gotten together. The city lights glowed in the night, and in this sleepless metropolis, it seemed like everyone was paired up. She walked down the street when suddenly someone bumped into her. "Miss, you're so beautiful. Didn't your boyfriend give you flowers? Here, take this bouquet." A little boy shoved a large bouquet into her arms. Willow held the flowers, suddenly a bit at a loss. If only they were from George. If only he were still here. Then an overwhelming sense of guilt swept over her heart. The next moment, a female voice broke through her thoughts. "Hi, excuse me, could I buy those flowers from you?" It was a girl with a sweet smile and a bun hairstyle, someone who easily made a good impression. She said, "My boyfriend is being a total jerk. Didn't even get me flowers today. I want to buy some and pretend someone else gave them to me just to mess with him. But you know how it is. There's no place open for flowers tonight." Willow thought, a couple having a little fight, huh? She stood there, dazed, handed over the bouquet, not intending to take money, but the girl had already stuffed a red bill into her hands. After thanking her, the girl walked off, while Willow remained standing there. George had once made her angry too. She thought he had forgotten this important day and sulked, but when she opened the fridge, it was packed with full of roses. In that moment, Willow felt like she loved George so much. Loved him so much she was willing to give her life for him. Willow felt like she was going.
Another hallucination, but this time she seemed to have messed with the wrong people. "Hey, you fucking blind or what?" A burly man yanked her by the arm, and a group of people dragged her into an alley. The outside world was too loud and cheerful. No one heard the violence hidden within. The man sneered. "You got money? Hand it over, sugar mama." He rummaged through her bag but only found a ring. And it was only when she saw the ring that Willow's eyes snapped open. She tried to grab it back, but the man dangled it above her like a cruel joke. That ring was a gift from George, the only thing she had left that was connected to him. She couldn't get the ring back. She struggled, but several people surrounded her, kicking and punching. Drunk and out of control, she lashed out in a fit of madness. In the end, Willow curled up on the ground, finally locating the ring, only for them to realize it was made of cheap metal and had no resale value. They tossed it aside like trash. She clutched the ring to her chest as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Someone muttered, "Shit, she's not dead, is she?" Another said, "Forget it, let's get the hell out of here." She didn't know how much time passed. Eventually, the group ran off into the distance. Willow felt like every organ inside her was in pain. She genuinely thought she was dying, but she laughed. Winter really was kind of cold. If she just lay there like this, would she ever wake up again? No one cared what happened in a quiet alleyway. The parade floats rolled by, echoing with laughter and music. Willow didn't know. If she had opened her eyes and looked toward the next street over, there, a man was gently coaxing a girl holding a bouquet of flowers. The girl said, "All right, I'll stop teasing you. Guess where I got these flowers?" The man replied, "Who gave them to you?" She said, "Willow. I think she used to be your ex." George scratched his head and said, "Oh,
She came too? The girl fiddled with the petals in her arms and nodded. She still seems to love you, but she probably thinks you're dead. She doesn't look like she's doing well. The man shrugged, indifferently. It all started with my friend wanting to mess with her. Then the whole group got involved and started playing along. I live abroad now. In the end, those idiots decided to put up a fake gravestone for me, just to prove I was dead. What a joke. But hey, I've got a tough life. Even if she dies, I won't. The doctor said it was a miracle I survived. I was more afraid they'd curse me into the grave. Whatever. However Willow feels has nothing to do with me anymore. People have to move on. Honestly, after making it through all that illness, she just doesn't matter to me at all anymore. He yawned and threw an arm around the girl. Come on, baby, stop fussing. Let's get in the car. I've got a little surprise for you. The clock struck midnight. Snow began to fall softly from the night sky. The stars glittered, neon lights sparkled, and the crisp jingle of bells ushered in another year.